Full time, Aston Villa 2, Manchester City 1. Mark Donaldson, Janusz Mihalik to pick the bones out of that one. It was 2-0 right until pretty much the last minute of added time when Phil Foden pulled one back. And I think, Janusz, 2-0 would have been a better scoreline as far as the way the game went. It would have been a fairer reflection of the way the game went. First question to you, was that result even a surprise now, the way City are playing?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? I mean, I think it almost feels like we've said everything that needed to be said. What's wrong with City? Why is this happening, right? Where they have consistently now over the last couple of weeks shown us that, that cycle is over. That cloak of invincibility is gone. A kind of sad ending to a glorious City era, I would say, right, where they gave us such a great football. But that happens. Nobody's going to cry about that, I suppose. But when you look at today, the opponent, obviously, remember they've lost their last season as well, and you saw the first minute mark, right, and John Duran and that chance in the corner, Ortega save. But even before that, because I'm sure not just me, but I looked at the lineup and I saw the midfield. And I saw what was missing at City, right? And what Villa had, that physicality, the two players that were absolutely incredible today, Morgan Rogers and Tielemans as well. Kamara was actually quiet, but doing his job as well. When I saw that lineup, I just said to myself, based on what I've seen before, this is just a disaster waiting to happen. And it did.
There's always a danger when people analyze a game like this, that they focus on the big side, the defending champions not winning the game, and very little praise goes to the other side. I don't want to fall into that trap because I thought Villa were exceptional today. That was the Villa team that we saw getting into the Champions League, the swashbuckling style, the midfield. And I'm glad you mentioned Tielemans, because he's a player I was going to mention as well as kind of an unsung hero. Morgan Rogers played with Cole Palmer for Manchester City's youth team. Never got a chance in the first team, ended up at Middlesbrough. And now look at him. He's 22. Gundogan's 34. He was replaced. Taylor, two midfielders. There's so many kind of things you can look at, so many dichotomies that you can kind of look at and say one's going one way and the other's going the other way. So not to fall into the trap of City this, City that, what did Aston Villa do so well today?
Well, obviously, I just mentioned the midfield. They had numbers there, and they did what many teams did over last week. Over last month or so, is that if you look at Manchester City, they're no longer powerful on the outside. No. Remember the combination play, the ability to get behind back four through combination play, get into that byline that I talk very often. Today, I saw it maybe once. Rico Lewis, I don't know if you remember, in the second half, and Phil Foden ended up with a shot and a good save. But they don't do that. They don't have the pace on the outside, so you can give that to them. Manchester City had a wonderful balance to them because not only could they stretch you wide, they had the ability to beat you one-on-one in the wide areas and combine centrally as well with players coming up. They've always sent numbers forward, and they do that. And they did that today. It's just that there's an inability to win the ball back quickly like they did before. That spirit, that hunger that they had to win it right back the moment they lost it, and inability to protect the back four, who's been a disaster due to injuries as well. So I think Villa knew that. They had the numbers and physicality in the center of the pitch, and they trusted Matty Cash, and I thought he played well, although he was maybe a little bit too eager, got himself booked, but saw the game through. And same thing on the other side with Lucadinha and Bernardo Silva, who, I don't even know why he's playing every game, just about 90 minutes of every game. It's just, it was coming. It's been coming. It's been happening. And, that's what's going to happen probably for the rest of the season. Some good, some bad, some indifferent for Manchester City.
I think it's fair, Janusz, to say that some managers can be guilty of going favoritism over form, picking a player because of the name of the player. John Duran starts ahead of Ollie Watkins. John Duran's in form. He's scored goals off the bench. He started, then he scored goals again. Very difficult to leave someone like Ollie Watkins out because he gets in 95% of Premier League teams. But he went with John Duran. And the opening goal is a good finish. And it's nice assist from Morgan Rogers. But that's one of the passes of the month from Yuri Tielemans to set up Rob.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I mean, that first goal, it's not even that. When I saw that, obviously the mistakes are obvious, right? John Stones being late, coming out there, no business. But I think, to me, because it made me think, because you'd say they trained that on the pitch, but it's one of those plays that even if they did, it showed how amazingly fast football is progressing, because I don't even know why you would train that, right? On a half turn, back to goal, Morgan Rogers forces him to play that, right? And I try to put myself in the position of Kovacic there, because he was lazy. He saw him in front, right? He let him go simply because he did not think that A, that run was going to be made, and B, that pass is going to be made. That's what was amazing about that whole play. Because think about it, when you turn like that with your left foot, perfectly weighted ball to send the player through. I mean, that takes some doing. And just the idea of wanting this to happen, it seemed to me like it was trained. It was trained, but then again, I know that doesn't happen. It's just that's what Morgan Rogers did. He decided that he's going to make that run. He gets that ball, great. If he doesn't, oh well, because otherwise, if he doesn't make that move, there's no way I think Tielemans plays that ball.
You mentioned the sloppy bit of play by Guardiola right at the start, 17 seconds that led to a corner after John Duran's one-on-one was saved by Ortega in for the injured Ederson. And from that corner, this is before the first goal is even scored. It's an unbelievable save from Ortega. We saw one last week from Martinez. This time it's Ortega to deny Pau Torres. So you kind of got a sense of the way that things are going. And maybe it's funny, and I know we're kind of jumping about chronologically here, but you spoke about the team lines. And if we're seeing that, and then Villa get it, and you see no Kevin De Bruyne, and surely Kevin De Bruyne, not 100% fit, but if he's good enough for the bench, is still good enough for 60 minutes. Because Erling Haaland's first touch, and it's debatable whether he even got that, was in the 90th minute. Surely a Kevin De Bruyne for 60 minutes is better what we're seeing from a Bernardo Silva, from a Kovacic. Yes, they haven't replaced Rodri, but this is all about Villa for me. And I know everyone will want to kind of go the other way. What's wrong with City? We've done that. We'll continue to do that. But today wasn't a surprise. And the fact, I think it was the 43rd minute when Grealish played the cross in and Guardiola headed over. That was the next chance that Manchester City had. Has Pep Guardiola run out of ideas, or has this City team just run out of legs?
Well, look, I mean, it's funny because I think we all want to put a nail into Manchester City, and they've been doing a pretty good job doing that themselves. But let's not forget, it is about Villa. They were absolutely outstanding. I think you can expect that from Villa, especially at home. The difference is, I think, the hunger. Right? I mean, something to strive for. This Villa, we all remember where they were when Emery took over and all that. It's a massive club that hasn't, won the Premier League in such a long time. So I think that's the difference. Because think about it. I mean, Villa has been in this place in the last month or so as well. Remember, I mean, they've had a soft patch. I mean, you look at here, you're talking about Manchester. Look at this. They conceded 25 goals. They don't score as many. Well, look at Villa. Point ahead. They've conceded more goals, right? They've scored less than Manchester City, so it's all relevant. But I mean, when you come off of winning the Premier League for 4 straight seasons, right? You've accomplished all these goals. This is the difference that we saw today, right? In that spirit, in that momentum, and wanting to get better. And there's still part of me that thinks that Premier League better be careful in not giving Manchester City renewed motivation, right? Because yes, the difference, I don't even think I'm talking about, who's going to win that. I mean, I think Manchester City may very well find themselves in the top 4. I look at their schedule. It's been tough now. Now it's a little bit less tough. So they have an opportunity, but it is a team that if there's a spark all of a sudden, right? If they start getting players better, I think they're going to come. I think if I were at Manchester City, they know already that it's impossible, right? They seem to think that way, Mark. So now, if they do go on and win 2 or 3 on the trot, this actually may be this sort of motivation to say, well, wait a second, we thought the season was over. Let's have a go. Because, I mean, Liverpool, got Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal have tough games over the weekend. And if they don't take advantage of this, I promise you this, this is only December, there's going to be a time where Manchester City may be within, say, 3, 4, 5 points. And you know what that means, right? That's that pressure towards the end of the season where all of a sudden 4 or 5 points doesn't seem like much. So I don't know if I see this at this moment, but I think these teams above them better take advantage of this.
So we'll get on to talk about the Villa second goal, but while we're here and while you're talking about that, let's continue this thread of City's next games. It's Everton and it's Leicester. Then the transfer window opens. Then it's West Ham, Brentford, and Ipswich. So there's 5 games that normally Manchester City wouldn't even worry about. Now they're going to be tough because of the way City are playing, but they should still be able to take care of the majority of those teams. Then after that, it's Chelsea, it's Arsenal, it's Newcastle, and it's Liverpool. But if you can go into those 4 games with the momentum, say you get those 5 wins against teams, who knows where you're going to be. But right now, we're still talking about Manchester City, who've dropped to 6th. Villa went above them today. And that second goal started off in the left-back area with Morgan Rogers. And he ran, and he got by tackles, and he still kept going. And then he finds John McGinn, who finds him back, and then it's a brilliant finish. And at that stage, that was probably a fairer reflection of the way that the game was going for Aston Villa. But now they've set this bar. And Unai Emery's talking about the physicality. And he thought it would be difficult. He targeted top 7 this season because he said, look what happened to Newcastle. But now the Champions League's on a break until end of January, where they play the last couple of games. Can you see Villa going on a run and maybe swapping 5th for 4th or maybe 3rd and doing what Manchester City hope to do?
Yeah, I mean, I always felt that there's some limitation to what Villa can do, right? I mean, that squad, I still think it's pretty thin in terms of, and you know, you look at Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, as you said, I mean, he likes to keep it thin, but there's difference makers coming off the bench. And I'm not saying the Villa doesn't have that, but it doesn't have as many. So, you know, the Champions League is I'm sure, welcome distraction for them, but I don't know. I look, I mean, can they move up to 2nd or 3rd? Absolutely. But I mean, is this a team that you think is going to be able to deal with both competitions and win it in the end? I doubt it. I think they're still short a player or 2. So, but I think if they continue to build, I guess we're going to have to wait and see if Villa are in a position to maybe change that in January window, right? Maybe they recognize that.
What do you think they need, Janusz, if they are to do that? What do you think they need, Villa?
Well, I mean, they don't need much. You know, if I look at their starting lineup, and you can swap, you know, if it's Ali Watkins or you know, I mean, there was a conversation during our game. Can Ali Watkins and John Duran play together? I don't know if there's a need to find that out, right? I mean, Ali Watkins had a great season last year. Now he's being pushed by John Duran, who we thought that was great just off the bench, and here we are, 3 starts in the Premier League and 4 goals in. I think 4 goals in last 4 games, something like that. So obviously he's showing that he's capable of starting and scoring from the bench as well. I just think depth, right? A little bit of pace again. If there's questions in the midfield, change that. I mean, John McGinn, and you know so well, he's so dependable as well. But maybe you know, a couple players there. So I think it's about quality and depth and power and strength. Hungry players. So that's what I would do. Nothing major, because I don't know if getting a big name, if let's just assume that was possible. I think with this team now, you're introducing a player and you kind of, you know, you're changing the dressing room a little bit. So just depth here, Mark.
Phil Foden got his first goal of the season in stoppage time. It put a little bit of gloss on a scoreline for City that probably they didn't deserve, given the lack of opportunities that they failed to create. So what now for them? That's Villa and what they might do in the January transfer window. So there's been a lot of talk about what Pep's going to do. He's been linked with Zubi Mendy. He's been linked with Bruno Guimaraes. The word from those on the ground, ESPN FC in Manchester, is that they're probably not likely to happen. And when you put that together with Pep saying that it's very difficult to do business in the January transfer window, and that's why he hasn't really done too much during his spell at City. They need players, But what players do they need? And can they be persuaded to swap wherever they are for Manchester City, knowing that City are going to have to pay over the odds to get who they want?
Look, I mean, the center of the pitch has to be addressed. The way they play, it's vital. And, I mean, I'm going to mention Rodri because we have to, but I've mentioned why that is, because they commit the way they play, attacking with 7-8 players, high line as well. You have center backs getting involved in play as well. So in transition, you need that. So I think that's absolutely, if there's an opportunity, and as we said, they do have the money, and I don't mean it just their owners, but they've sold a lot of players. And so I think they're capable of spending a little bit extra for that type of player if he becomes available. But I think it's solving the wide area, isn't it? Right? They seem to have the players. They thought they had the players. Today it didn't look that way because obviously Bernardo Silva and Grealish are not going to beat you for pace. So Villa didn't worry about that. In Doku and Silvinho, sometimes that takes time. They look the players to me like they can. It may be just taking them a little bit longer to fit into that system, because to me that is vital. And you know why that is vital? For one reason and one reason only, and that's Erling Haaland. Because when Manchester City struggle like this in the wide areas in terms of service, Haaland is absolutely useless. Absolutely useless. He's only great when others are great. That's why I've always said this. Remember, I mean, I get pelters for this. He'll never be a complete player for me. I always say, there's going to be a time next game. You still have 5 games. He's going to score 3 or 4 in a game. We're going to be back on this bandwagon. He's going to have 25 by the time the season's over. But, I need you to score when it matters. Big time players now, when the team is struggling, they need Haaland. But we all know that Erling Haaland has never been the type of player that can create a goal for himself. He never did, and he never will. And we see this over and over. You've mentioned, 10, 18, 12 touches in the game. Passing, even with those, hasn't been great today. I mean, I don't know if I saw it was maybe 12 passes, 8 of them completed. That's, it's not his strength. So I think that's the first thing that needs solving, that combination play, the ability of Manchester City to get behind the back four. Remember those triangles, get into the byline, cutting the ball back, Erling Haaland putting that away from 3, 4, 5, 6 yards. Remember last season, how many goals did he score in that area? That is not working. So that needs to be solved first and foremost after the number 6.
We talk about crosses into the box, which City aren't doing. But if you can get to the byline and cut it back, that's where a lot of goals have come from Haaland. I'm just thinking maybe outside the box here, because it's a 4-2-3-1. One of the fullbacks likes to invert, go forward, go in. Would City be better with a 4-4-2? The width you're talking about, a striking partner for Erling Haaland, maybe a Foden or a De Bruyne, because you're not going to get full games every week from Kevin De Bruyne, but at least play him. If you've got the creativity centrally to provide for Haaland and another striker, say an Isak, we're just giving anything here, just a partner for Haaland, and you've got a Doku on one side, a Silvinho on the other side, or whatever. And then you've got your width provided by both the fullbacks getting forward, your 2 wide players there as well. You've got your 2 number 10s. I know it leaves you a little bit short, because if you've not got Rodri, it's clear you can't replace him. But would Haaland benefit from a strike partner and a simple 4-4-2?
Yeah, but there isn't one. And I hear what you're saying, but I mean, they're kind of doing that, because if they put anybody next to him, it's still not going to be a real striker, because they don't have that. Right? I mean, Julian Alvarez.
Get one. That's what I'm saying.
Get
one.
Yeah, maybe. But until they do, you've asked me in the beginning, and many people are talking about it. Pep doesn't know what to do anymore. What can Pep do to change that? He's lacking ideas. Well, maybe don't play Haaland. Don't start him. I mean, he's playing with a false. He's playing. I mean, I've seen Foden. I've seen De Bruyne. Remember it. I mean, for long periods of time when they were winning, even when Julian Alvarez wasn't playing, but he's done that in the past where he's surprised us with Bernardo Silva as a false 9, or I remember De Bruyne playing there. What I'm saying is this is not ideal. I mean, Erling Haaland's still a great finisher, but in this spell right now, Pep Guardiola has tried everything but one thing. And that is to change something, to give us something unexpected. What made Pep Guardiola all these years so special? It was because of that, right? I mean, he's had Bernardo Silva playing left back. I remember that didn't work, but he's had players all over the pitch, and we always said, "Wow, how does he do it? How do they fit all into that system?" There was always something special about him where we couldn't see ahead of the game. So maybe this is something, because what else does he have to lose? But now you've given the opponent something to worry about, because they know with Haaland what they need to do. All the teams have been doing this. I mean, when was the last time Haaland scored in the Premier League? This is going now. He's got like 1 goal in 5 or 6 games, right? So teams are kind of saying, okay, we'll do what Villa just did. And many of them are doing it. Make sure the center of the pitch is congested, and they don't worry. They give you the wide areas and all that. So I wonder if that may be, for one game, something to reignite this team to try this interchangeability of Manchester City. But I hear you. If they can get a striker, of course. I'm with you on that.
We're both just looking for different things, because what it is right now isn't working. Just finally, with regards to Haaland, that was a game today where it probably isn't a surprise he didn't see much of the ball, the way it went. But he's got Everton next, and then he's got Leicester after that, Pep Guardiola. You're not dropping Erling Haaland for those games, are you?
Well, I don't know if he's going to do it, but why not? I mean, he's underperforming, and he's given him, he's playing all the time. There's been changes just about everywhere for whatever reason, and we don't know about Kevin De Bruyne not even coming off the bench today. And, okay, he's not 100%, but great player that Haaland absolutely needs. Whatever it may be, maybe he's saving him for it. Everybody has paid the price, with the exception, for the most part, when you look at the front players of Haaland and Bernardo Silva for the most part. So I think you're at a stage where nobody can be surprised if they sit on the bench, right? I mean, if he told Haaland tomorrow that he sit on the bench, what's Haaland's argument against that? He hasn't done the job.
Aston Villa up to 5th. Manchester City down to 6th. Their 9th defeat. It's not been great this season, and they're 9 points behind Liverpool right now. 9 games out of 12 without a win, and just 1 victory in that spell. Liverpool as well, with 2 games in hand. It ain't working right now, and something needs to change at City. But what is that? Bye for now.